up, YouTube? Jeremiah Hersey here. Welcome to the next episode. In this one, we're going to be setting up the tables that we're going to need for our business process flow, which we're going to make in our next video. So we're going to be making a new hire table, and we're also going to be making an applicant table so we can track that process from application all the way through the hiring process and then build that business process flow, which essentially tracks everything within inside of our tables. And I can't wait to get started, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So as always, we want to make sure that we're in the correct environment, and so we're going to check up here in the upper right hand corner. Just make sure you're in the environment that you created that solution in. And that's where we're going to start. Remember that we talked about building everything from a solution is best practice. So that way, if we migrate it from development to production or from development to testing, it's easy to migrate that solution. So we're going to go to solutions over here on the left-hand side, and we're going to find that solution that we created. So here's our business onboarding solution. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And so the two things that we're going to make here today is the new hire table and the applicant table. So we want to track from application all the way up until we hire the person for our business. And then the new hire survey table, that's going to be at the very end once they're hired. So we did it a little bit backwards, but that was the fun part. But we're going to be building another Canvas application from scratch so that it's part of this solution, because remember that the Wizard app or the Start from Data app is not available to be included in this solution. So we're going to go ahead and go up here to new, and we're going to create some new tables here. So we're going to go to new and table. All right, so the name of this table is going to be new hire. And we're going to want to include new hire paperwork and W-2s and things like that. So what we're going to do for this particular table is we're going to enable the attachments here. So we're going to enable attachments. So that way we can upload new hire paperwork, anything that associates with new hire, any paperwork that your company wants to have them fill out. You can also have the ability to upload it into this table as well. The primary column here is going to be, we'll call this the employee name. So we have our primary column. Once again, this can be a text field or an auto number. In this case, we're going to use the employee name as the primary column. For properties, we can put a description in here if you want to, but it's not necessary. If we look at advanced options, we'll notice that it has the schema name. Remember, we talked about that publisher that we created. It's got the JAH, so we can identify that this is going to be the publisher for myself, anything that I created inside of this particular solution. And so we also have some possibilities down here at the bottom if you scroll down. So we have the ability to have audit logs here. So there's audit changes to the data. So we can track any changes that we want. So there's several options down here under the advanced options that we have the ability to turn on if we want to. If you want to track any changes made to this table, that's what this is for. But all the standard options are good for us, so we're going to go ahead and click Save. Once again, Dataverse is what we're building this on, and so it does a lot of the stuff for us. As we talked about in the other video, that we have the ability to change the way that we see this. So the way that we see the data, that's the views, or how we enter the data, that's the forms. So view is how we see it, form is how we enter the data. But we can also just go right here to the column section within the schema, and create new columns as we want to. Okay, so some of these are going to be similar to the new hire survey, such as the department that they applied for, but we're going to go ahead and create these columns now. So the only column that we created here was the primary column. You can see it right here. It has that name, that prefix JAH, letting us know that we created it. And so we're going to create several other columns that we're going to use inside of this table. So we're going to go up here to the top, and we're going to go to New Column. The first column that we're going to create is the department. All right, so this is the department that they applied to. And so this is going to be a choice. And so we're going to go down here to choice. Now, the awesome part about this is because we created this choice in the other table, we should be able to leverage that with inside of this one. Select our choice here. And so we're going to go down here to the bottom where it says sync this choice with. So we're going to find that department there. All right, so there we can see our department. So I'm going to go ahead and select department here that has my finance, sales, and customer service. So that's the best part about Dataverse is once you build something, it's always going to be available. And so this is super awesome. Less work that we have to do. We already created that choice in our new hire survey, so we can use it right here in our new hire table as well. And we're going to go ahead and click save. All right, so the next column that we're going to create here is the hire date. So what date were they hired? And so for data type here, we're going to be choosing the date and time. It's most appropriate. So I'm just going to use the date only option, and we'll go ahead and click save. Now we want to be able to track how long this process took. So we have the hire date, but we also want to have the application date as well, so that we can kind of track this later on inside of a Power BI report if we want to. So we're going to have our application date here. We're going to do date only. And we're going to click save. The next column that we're going to use here or create is the salary. We're going to track how much that we're going to pay these our new employees here. So we're going to select currency. So data type is a currency. And the last column that we're going to use here is going to be just a choice, but it's going to be whether or not they have their new hire paperwork. So new hire paperwork complete. So this data type here is going to be a choice, and it's just going to be a yes, no option. So did they complete their new hire paperwork, yes or no? And then we'll be able to upload that into this table. All right, let's go ahead and save that. All right, so let's go back to our new hire table here. We're just going to follow the breadcrumbs up here at the top. So this allows you to quickly go back into the section that you want to work in. And we're going to modify the form. So the form, once again, is how we enter data. So here's the form. So we're going to modify this form. And we're going to be choosing the main form here. I'm going to select the information name. And of course, we can change that name. So over on the right hand side, that display name information, we're going to go ahead and change that to new hire. And we can start adding the information that we need. And so over on the left hand side, you'll see the ABC. Okay, that's our table columns. And if you want to only look at the columns that we've created, you can use this filter option right here at the top and only look at custom. And so then we can just drag and drop these in whatever order that we want to. Now, one thing I want to talk about when using currency, you do not want to use the one that says base. Okay, this is for internal conversions, and so when we use anything that's a currency, you're always going to have a base currency and you're going to have the other column that is associated to that. The base is for internal purposes for conversion, so we want to make sure we use the one that is not the base. So we do not want to use this one right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and drag these into whatever position that I want. And once again, we have the option to make these required if you wanted to. Okay, for now, the only thing that's required is the employee name. But if we want to modify that, it's really simple to do, and I'll show you how to do that. So we want to make sure that as the people go through this process, whoever's filling this out, we want to make sure they have to enter all of this information. And so we're going to change a couple of these options here to make sure that we include a department, a hire date, and whether or not they have the new hire paperwork here. So what we're going to do is in the upper right hand corner, we're going to save and publish this form. So we'll go ahead and save and publish. We're going to click the back button. And I'm going to use the breadcrumbs once again so I can go back here to my new hire table. And if I wanted to change the columns, so I'm going to go back to columns here just to show you how to do this. Let's say we decide we want to make some of them required, right? So for the ones that I want to choose here, so I can select hire date, for instance. And right here where it says required, so I can change that option from optional to business required and go ahead and save that. So I can make sure that they have to fill this out no matter what. We want to make sure that they fill out this information. So for department, I want to make sure that they choose a department. So I'm going to make this business required. And we'll also do the same for the new hire paperwork. So we want to make sure that they fill out that new hire paperwork. So yes or no based on that. All right, so let's go back to our new hire table. Remember, the two things that we have to do are the forms and the views. So we've already created the form to enter the data, but now we have to change the view on how we're going to see the data. So let's go ahead and select views. And we're going to select the active new hires view. Once again, we can use this filter icon to filter down to just the custom columns that we've created. All right, so we'll go ahead and just drag and drop these in here. You can also double click to add them as well. Did not mean to add that base, so if I want to remove that, I select the down arrow and I can remove that from my view. I have all the things I needed, the employee, when this was created, application date. So I'm going to go ahead and save and publish. So when creating model-driven applications, which is what we're going to do, we need our forms and our views created correctly. So we're going to go ahead and click the back button. Once again, always make sure you click the back button in the Power Apps section and not the browser back button. Now let's go back to our tables here. All right, so you can see that we have our new hire table and our new hire survey. And so one thing that we didn't create in the last video when we created that new hire survey is the name for this survey. We just created the auto number here. But what we can do is we can, now that we've created this new hire table, we can associate the survey to the employee from the new hire table. And so that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to go ahead and create a column. So we're going to select the column area, and then once again we're going to select new column here at the top. So the new column is going to be the employee name. And so in this case, we're going to do a lookup to that new hire table. So the data type here is going to be a lookup. So we're going to look up to that table here. And so we're going to select our related table is going to be the new hire table. Notice we have the option to use any of the Dataverse tables. So we're going to select this new hire table right here. And we're going to go ahead and save that. So this will give us the ability to look up to that new hire table to find that employee name. That's why we made it the primary column in that new hire table. Awesome. And so the last thing that we're going to do here today is create a new table for the applicant. All right, so we're going to create a new table here. We're going to create a new table. This is going to be the applicant table. And the primary column is going to be the applicant name. We're going to make sure to enable attachments here so that we can include things like the resume and the cover letter. And we're going to go ahead and click Save. As always with our Dataverse tables, if we're going to be using this in a model-driven application, which we will, we want to make sure that we set up the views and the forms. I can't stress this enough. Okay, this is the most important part, is setting up how you're going to enter the data and how you're going to see the data. We probably want to add a couple more columns here, so let's go back into our schema. Let's go ahead and add a new column. So up here at the top, we're going to add a new column. This column is going to be email, so we want their email address here. And so we're just going to select text for this. And we're going to make this business recommended. We recommend that they put an email in there so we can contact them. So we'll go ahead and save that. And so what this table is going to be tracking is the interview process. So what date were they given their first interview? Did they pass their first interview? And we're going to use this in our business process flow. So we're going to go ahead and create a new column here. And we're going to call this interview 1 date. And so this is going to be a date only. And this is going to be business required. And then we're going to create a new column here. Interview 1 pass. So did they pass the first interview? This is just going to be a choice, yes or no. And we're going to make this required. This is going to be the juncture point inside of our business process flow. If we say no, it's going to go down one path. If it's yes, it's going to go down another. All right, so interview one pass here. We're going to go ahead and click save. And let's say our company has a two-step or a two-interview process here. So we're going to go ahead and create a second option here for interview 2, the date and whether or not they pass. So interview 2 date. We're going to make this date only. And we're going to make this business required. And click save. And then we're going to create our last column for this table. Interview to pass. Once again, this is going to be a choice, yes or no. Did they pass the second interview? This is going to be required. And we're going to click save. Alright, so we're going to go back to our applicant table here. Remember that when we're setting this up for model-driven applications using Dataverse, the two most important things are setting up those forms and views. So we're going to go to our forms first. It's just the way I like to do it. I'm going to go to the main form here. So always go to the main form. I'm going to change that name to make it a little more descriptive. So I'm going to call this new applicant form. And once again, I'm going to use the filter to filter down to just my custom columns. So I'm just going to select all of these. I'm just clicking on them. It's a little bit easier than dragging and dropping. And so we have the ability to just click and set up our form relatively quickly. And as always, we want to make sure we save and publish that in the upper right hand corner. Notice the difference between business recommended and business required. The blue icon is recommended and the star is required. Alright, so we have our form. We're going to go back to our table, our applicant table here. And we're going to select our view. Remember, view is how we're going to see the data. Alright, so we're going to once again choose that active view. So the active view is going to be the name of your table, pluralized. So active applicants here. And we're going to go ahead and filter down to our custom. And then I'm just going to click on these to put them in. A little bit easier than dragging and dropping, in my opinion. And we're going to save and publish. And this is going to track all of our information as we go to use it inside of our business process flow that we'll create in the next video. Alright, so as you can see, we now have our 3 tables set up for our onboarding process. We have our applicant table as they start the interview process. Once they pass through the applicant phase, they're going to move into the new hire, make sure that we have all the new hire paperwork, and then finally we're going to send out that new hire survey so we can track how well we did. I know that was a little bit longer of a video, but it's important that we set everything up properly to make it easier as we go to set up the business process flow and the model-driven app, and it just makes things easier. So it does take some time to set up, but as you can see with Dataverse, we didn't have to recreate those choices that we wanted for like department because it was already there from when we did the new hire survey. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content. I'll see you in the next one.